and I will begin recording now. So once again, welcome to the free Akashic Trancework webinar. My name is Nathan, and my partner Astara is in here as well. And what we do in Akashic Trancework is we explore consciousness. And there's so many things that you can do when you begin exploring consciousness. Accessing the Akashic records, accessing past lives is just one small part of it. There's so much more that we can do. There's so much healing. There's so much empowerment. There's so much that just to even begin to describe some of the things that we can do would take an entire webinar in itself. So we begin just by talking really simply about how we came about this practice, and then we'll go into how we can induce some trance states as well as astral boundaries. So in Akashic trance work, we've come to understand that consciousness grows. Everything grows. Consciousness is no difference. Our consciousness, our minds expand in a predictable pattern. We've come to understand that these cycles are very easy to observe once you begin to become aware of them. We call this the ARE cycle. And the term ARE comes from the concept of Ubuntu. Ubuntu is a word that means I am because we are. It's an expression of the unity of all beings. It's an expression of the fact that we are all one body. We are all one being, but we're also in a way separate because we perceive one another as being separate. Our separateness, our individuality comes from our perception of one another. I see you, you see me, so we are separate individuals, but we're all united. As we've come to understand Ubuntu, we've channeled through this modality a synthesis of all of the experiences, all of the learning that we've done, all of our channelings, all of our spiritual work that we've done over the last collectively 40 years between the two of us, to understand this ARE cycle. ARE stands for activate, release, and expand. It's a very easy to observe cycle, and most of us understand it intuitively, but I'll talk a little bit about how it works. Most of us at some point in our life have been through an activation. When we talk about activation, we're talking about the activation of our awareness. Anything can be an activation. Our awareness is activated all the time. Anytime that you see something, it's technically an activation. But when we talk about activation, we're talking about a spiritual activation, an activation of our awareness, an activation of our senses. Something new happens in our lives. Oftentimes, it's a traumatic event, but it's not always. Sometimes it's just through contemplation or meditation or seeking or learning or journeying. But regardless, it's a shift, it's a change, a revelation. It's an alteration in our perspective, our perception of the universe. We're activated. Activation can be a wonderful thing. We love activating because changing perspective is an entirely new universe of being. But once we activate, oftentimes we come up against things within ourselves that we've been holding on to. These could be old programs, old conditioning, old traumas, things from our childhood, things from our past lives, things we've inherited from our ancestors, blockages, energetic density, cellular memory. There's a lot of ways that these things can manifest, but ultimately, what we've come to understand is that most of these things can be released. We don't need to hold on to these things, and they drain our energy. They take our energy away. They divert our energy away from where we want to be in life. They take us away from our purpose. So we developed an entire process by which we can release those things. But once we've released those things, we can expand. An expansion is that powerful opening phase where we've let go of those things, and suddenly we have extra energy, we have extra time, we have extra space to explore ourselves, to explore the universe, to explore our consciousness. Expansion can look like a lot of different things. It might be exploring our astral awareness. It might be exploring past lives, connecting to our ancestors, learning how to read the Akashic record. But it can be anything. It could be just exploring the physical world. It could be activating our careers. It could be writing a book. It can be anything. But the point is that we've let go of those things that were draining our energy, and now we have room to expand. And then eventually the momentum of expansion kind of runs out, and usually there's another activation. So this ARE cycle happens continually. In Akashic Trance work, we want to ride the ARE cycle intentionally, with intentionality, so that we can take some ownership, take some power over our experience instead of just kind of being along for the ride, which is how it is most of the time. So that's the ARE cycle. And I'd like to take a moment just to kind of review our agenda for this webinar. So we'll be spending some time discussing how we can activate our different states of awareness, what we call different trance states. We'll talk a little bit about astral boundaries and what they're good for. And then I'm going to take you on a guided journey for about maybe 5 to 10 minutes to explore some of these concepts in a practical, applicable way. And then we'll allow a little bit of time afterwards if you'd like to share or discuss or ask any questions about your experience. And again, at any time, if you would like to speak up, I think that what sets this experience apart from most webinars that you'll go to is that we're actually here. I'm actually here, Shannon. So you can see and experience and engage with us if you want to, or just sit back and relax. We invite you to just sit back and relax as well. It's up to you completely. So that's our agenda. So let's talk about trance states. It's my favorite thing to talk about, obviously. I'm a trance worker, so let's talk about it a little bit. Why do we care about trance states? Trance states are other states of awareness beyond where we are right now. Most of the time we're engaged with our physical space. We might be kind of aware of what's going on in our minds, but most of the time we're at this sort of conscious mind level. Our thoughts, our feelings are all just kind of there on the surface. And they don't necessarily always fit together. They might kind of flow this direction or flow that direction. But what do we do with our thoughts? What do we do with our feelings? What do we do with our experiences and our sensations in our body? What do we do with them? Well, in trance work, we want to understand those things. We want to engage with those things. And we want to actually use those experiences for exploration. We want to explore ourselves a little bit. We want to face ourselves. And we do this because the subconscious mind, that completely hidden part of ourselves that's below the surface, sort of like an iceberg, how an iceberg has this much above the surface and below is just an infinite mass. We want to engage the subconscious mind. And the trick to doing that is through trance work. And we do this because it's healing, it's empowering, it's expansive. Knowing ourselves is the key to everything. Everything there is in life can be expanded upon once we know how to engage the subconscious mind. And to do this, we have to explore our trance states. Let's talk a little bit about these different states and what they are. So the different levels of awareness that the human mind is capable of reaching can be measured very easily on a machine, an EEG. These different brainwave patterns that can be measured are the frequencies of energy, the frequencies of sound essentially moving through our brains. The implications of that are pretty profound, and we won't go into that too much, but sound is everything, frequency is everything, and the frequency of the brain waves in your mind control your thoughts, control your experience, control your feelings, control your level of consciousness, whether you're conscious or unconscious, whether you're awake or asleep. So most of the time, if we're in a very active, engaged state, we'll be having a lot of beta activity in our minds, these tight waves you see on top. Beta activity is what we need to be able to navigate throughout our physical 3D experience. They allow us to engage with the world. They allow us to get things done. They allow us to have energy, physical energy to do physical things. And obviously we need beta waves to be able to navigate our experience. But in Akashic Trance work, we focus more upon specifically alpha and theta waves for reasons I'll go into here in a moment, because with beta waves, oftentimes there's a level of vigilance, a level of anxiety, a level of fear. When people are very actively afraid or experiencing anxiety, there's a lot of beta activity happening. So most people don't need to bring in more beta activity, they need less. Now, there are people that are very ungrounded, that just kind of have a difficult time getting things done, showing up for appointments, taking care of their basic physical needs. And those are the kind of people that probably need more beta activity in their mind. And there are ways to stimulate that using things like binaural beats, solfeggio frequencies. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. But again, we don't work specifically with beta waves a whole lot in Akashic trance work. What we do is we work with the alpha and theta states. Alpha states are more relaxed. Alpha states are where we go when we're kind of daydreaming, when we're lightly meditating. We're awake, we're aware of our surroundings, we can engage with it, but we're in a nice, kind of relaxed, sort of daydreamy, almost like spaced out state where we might be kind of lightly napping almost. And it's a nice, relaxed place to be. Alpha states are very powerful and very useful when you know how to use them. And we'll go into that here in a moment after we go through all the rest of these states here. Delta states are when we're asleep, when we're deeply asleep. No dreams, no conscious mind activity, no real subconscious activity that we would remember. It's a very deep healing place to be. And we need to go into delta states in order to heal a lot of times, but we don't work in delta states so much because we want to be able to remember our experiences, our inner experiences. And there's not a whole lot happening in delta states, although there can, again, be some really healing things that happen in those delta states. Theta states are kind of the sweet spot of trance work. When we talk about going into a trance, usually we're talking about going into a theta state. You go into a theta state a lot without even knowing it, unless you already are aware of these things. When you're dreaming, you're going into a theta state. When you're almost asleep, you're in a theta state. Theta states are very powerful, and again, we'll talk about that more here in a moment. Theta states are great for experiencing our inner self completely because the external body, the external self, is completely unaware. Depending on what level of theta, there are different levels of these things. You might have a light theta state where you're engaged, but you're still pretty much aware. In a deep theta state, somebody could come along and pick up your arm and drop it, and you wouldn't even know it. Theta states are very deeply engaged with the inner self. And then sometimes we also talk about gamma states. And gamma states are very powerful. They're that place of heightened perception, that place of what we like to call heart-centered awareness, where we are able to rest into ourselves and be fully aware, but also engage with our inner worlds. It's a place of perfect balance, a place of perfect equilibrium. You can't really induce a gamma state, but you can choose to go there. A lot of times people will play things like binaural beats and things like that to try to bring a gamma state in. But to really get to a gamma state, you have to choose to let go of all of your attachments and really rest into the heart center. So gamma states are something we cultivate more than induce. So we don't try to induce those. We just allow them to happen. People that have been meditating or doing trance work for a very long time can very easily get into that gamma state. It's a very nice, comfortable, cozy place to be. So let's talk a little bit more about alpha trance. Alpha states are extremely useful because they allow us to access our astral space. In order to describe what I mean by that, I want to talk a little bit about how we use the term astral space in Akashic trance work. Usually when people talk about astral experiences, they're talking about a sort of out of body experience where they're traveling off to another place or another dimension or something like that. When we talk about astral space, we're talking about everything that's not physical, all of our non-physical experiences, as opposed to physical space, which is very easy to observe. You can observe and predict what's going to happen in physical space because of those predictable laws of physics, right? If you pick up a physical ball and you drop it, then it's going to fall every time at a predictable velocity, a predictable rate. It's going to make a sound. It's always going to do that. If we drop an imaginary ball, anything could happen. It could turn into a bird. It could dissolve. Who knows? Maybe we become the ball. Anything could happen. So all of our inner experiences, our imagination, our creativity, our visions, our memories, our thoughts, our feelings, all those things that are not really easy to define based on our understanding of the universe, based on our understanding of physical laws, that's all of that astral space. So why do we care about that? The thing is that we have many, many senses. Many senses. You might have heard of all the clair senses, and even beyond that, we have many more. The Egyptians taught us that we have 360 senses. 360 senses. We don't even have words or concepts for these senses in the English language or in any language that I'm aware of because we just don't have a concept. We don't have any concept of the complexity of human consciousness. We might think about our sixth sense as being kind of this vague, intuitive awareness, this general sort of psychic awareness, all of these different clairvoyant, clairaudient abilities. But we don't really know how to make sense of them most of the time. And in Akashic Trance work, we want to try to make sense of those things. We want to try to understand our different senses. Most of us have been walking around with our senses either shut off or too open, right? Either we're walking around like this or we're walking around blinded, right? We need to find a balance point. We want to be able to activate and deactivate those senses as needed. There's times that we don't want to be sensitive. There's times that we want to be protected. And we'll talk about the boundaries here in a moment. But there's other times that we want to activate that awareness. So all of these different potential experiences that we can have, all of the clair senses, past life awareness, ancestral awareness, Akashic reading, all of these different things are just examples of different types of awareness that we can access once we begin to really connect with ourselves to access these trance states. So, alpha trance is very useful because most of us go there all the time anyway, right? Most of us, especially the people that are drawn to this kind of work, tend to be pretty daydreamy, kind of spacey people. Maybe we consider ourselves psychic or clairvoyant or clairaudient or whatever it might be, but we may not know how to really get back and forth between those states. It kind of just happens, right? We may not know how to get ourselves down to a present state. We may not know how to get ourselves down to that beta state. So understanding how to get ourselves into an alpha trance from any state allows us to get ourselves out of it if we need to. We want to be able to get ourselves in and out of any trance state very easily and very quickly. So that's why we want alpha trance, and getting ourselves into that state, which again, we do this naturally, but we want to be able to induce these states both in ourselves and others. And we teach ways that we can help others to get to these states. And healers and readers and people like that really benefit from this work because it's very easy to heal people if you can get them to relax. It's all about relaxation, right? Our bodies, our lower selves, our physical intelligence, in order to really have those powerful, meaningful, deep astral experiences, need to be able to relax so that we can just go where we need to go. So there's a couple different ways that we've discovered to easily get ourselves into these alpha states. There's a lot of different ways, but in Akashic Trance work, we've developed and cultivated and observed two primary methods for getting ourselves into any trance state. And these can be done anywhere. That's the nice thing about them. You can do them in the woods, in your bedroom, walking on the beach, anywhere that you might be, you can do these practices very simply. So the first method that we've cultivated in Akashic trance work for inducing trance states is the breath. And this is not new information. Obviously, if you've done any kind of yoga or meditation or pranayama or martial arts or physical exercise, anything like that, you understand that how you breathe affects your awareness, it affects your consciousness, it affects your mood, it affects your feelings. So the observation of those patterns in ourselves and our clients and our students has led us to this very simple method of inducing an alpha trance. All you have to do is just count to 5 on the inhale and count to 5 on the exhale. We're saying 4 to 7 seconds here because it does vary, and we encourage you to play with that a little bit depending on your lung capacity and your comfort with this kind of practice. It will vary, but for most people, it's about 5 seconds. It's just a little bit deeper than your normal breath. It's a nice, relaxed kind of breath. So I invite you now, if you would like, to take a couple alpha breaths with me, and I'll count to 5 on the inhale and count to 5 on the exhale. So if you want to just relax a little bit, and we'll breathe in for 5 and out for 5. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's very relaxing. And as you do that, you should immediately begin to become a little bit more aware of your thoughts and feelings and whatever's going on inside, and a little bit less aware of what's going on around you, but you're still awake, you're still conscious, you're still engaged, but just a little bit more introspective, a little bit more daydreamy. And it's a nice place because there you can begin to visualize and imagine and create, which is a very powerful process. It's very powerful to be able to do that. So that's a trick to getting ourselves into an alpha state. But breath work doesn't work for everyone. That's what we found. Not everyone likes to count their breath. Some people, it's uncomfortable for them to breathe that way. Maybe they have asthma or something, or maybe just too many thoughts and feelings going on and they can't really relax. So if you can't relax at all, if you have a lot of stuff going on, it doesn't matter how much you breathe, you're not really going to be able to go into that trance state. So what we want to do is get ourselves out of our bodies, sorry, out of our minds a little bit and into our bodies. We want to get into our bodies and vibrate a certain frequency into a specific part of our body using our voice. The voice is the most healing thing that we are capable of producing. Our voices are the vibration, the vibratory key to achieving different levels of awareness. So the practice of toning is just vibrating the voice into a specific part of the body. What we've come to realize is that to get ourselves into an alpha state, we want to tone, we want to hum into our face, into our nose, into our forehead, into our eyes, into our throat a little bit. We want to be able to feel the vibration in that part of our body. And that will help us to relax enough so that we can get into that alpha place. It's very relaxing. It's very calming. It's easy to do. You don't have to sound good. It's not singing. You're not trying to perform. It doesn't even have to be audible. You can have your mouth open or closed for it. You don't have to make any specific sound or tone or any specific note or anything like that. All you need to do is just vibrate your voice into that part of your body. You'll be able to very quickly activate that trance state. So I invite you now, if you'd like to try it with me. You may not be able to hear me very well over the microphone, but again, all you're doing is just intentionally vibrating your voice into your head. Okay. So I encourage taking a nice deep breath into the stomach. It's very relaxing. Let's try it one more time. That's all there is to it. And if you do it right, you should be able to kind of feel the vibration in your nose and your eyes and your brain. It's very healing, very healing. Even just doing that, even if you don't care about going into a trance state, just toning into yourself. It's very healing. It's a lot of fun. You can do it with children, with a partner, with anyone that might be willing. And people love it. It doesn't have to be some spiritual exercise. It's just a lot of fun. It's very healing to tone. So that's how we can get ourselves into an alpha state very easily anytime. So let's talk a little bit about theta states. Theta states are extremely powerful because when we're in a theta state, we can really engage with that inner world, with that astral space. Theta states are where we usually go if we're going to do a past life regression or access the Akashic record or do some sort of shamanic journey, or if we're going to do trauma work, or if we're going to get really deep into ourselves, we want to relax enough that we're fully engaged with our astral space, with our inner world, with our imaginative, creative abilities. And that's where a lot of the real work happens. We can do all these things in alpha states really well, and a lot of people do them naturally in alpha states. So you don't have to go into theta to do the trance work practices that we teach, but it can be very powerful if you can learn how to take yourself down into a theta state from a conscious mind place. Usually, if you go into a natural theta state, you're going to go to sleep, right? Usually, you will fall asleep, go into a delta state, allow your mind and body to relax, and then you'll kind of move up into that theta place and dream, which is fine. And a lot of really powerful things happen in our dreams. You know, we're engaging with that symbolic dream language. We're learning a lot. We're experiencing a lot. We're having a full on astral experience. But a lot of us don't remember our dreams, or maybe we don't know how to interpret them. Inducing a theta state through trance work allows us to have engaged trance experiences, engaged theta experiences, engaged dream experiences. It's helpful to work with a guide like myself, or at least an asker if you have someone to kind of ask you questions, but it's not fully necessary. If you can learn the nuances of inducing theta trance, you can take yourself there and take yourself out, have those deep experiences, have those full-on astral experiences, and take yourself out without falling asleep. Problem is the body really does kind of want to fall asleep once you get to a certain point of relaxation. So using these specific induction techniques is very helpful. So again, breath and toning are the tools we've cultivated for theta states. The theta breath for most people is 7 to 10 seconds. Most people don't need to go beyond 9 seconds. Think of it as your second deepest breath. The deepest breath that you take will usually take you to a sleeping state pretty quickly if you allow yourself to do that. If you go beyond 10 seconds, you're actually somewhat depriving your brain of oxygen. You will fall asleep pretty quickly. You know, it's a great way to relax. And if your body needs to fall asleep, that's fine. Sometimes we just need to sleep, and sometimes we just need to relax. But we want to be able to kind of master that going into theta and then going back out to alpha or beta states. And that's the kind of thing that we teach. So if you would like to just try a couple of theta breaths with me, I do recommend maybe sitting back or lying back for this because the head tends to kind of droop a little bit and that can be a little bit uncomfortable. So being in a very relaxed position for theta induction is recommended. So we'll do a 7 count. I'll count in for 7, and then on the exhale, we'll count out for 7. So in, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So as you do that, you'll begin to relax even more deeply and begin to receive more and more of your inner experience, more and more of your imaginative, creative experience. The mind might start to kind of wander, and we'll talk about that here in a moment. That's fine. Really, we want to allow ourselves to be aware of our breath. If we can just be aware of the length of our breath without letting it go too deep, we can stay in that theta place and move ourselves up into an alpha state if we need to by just breathing a little bit more shallowly. So again, breath isn't what everyone likes, or maybe sometimes we don't want to have to count our breath. Toning into a theta state is probably one of my favorite things to do because it feels really nice. It's very relaxing. It's a lot of fun. It's a very primal feeling. If you think about how a mother soothes a child through humming, it's very similar, and we're just consciously doing this. So if you would like to try this with me, the tone for the theta state is toning into the heart and solar plexus region. You want to just kind of hum down there, and you can mix it up. You can vary the tone a little bit. You don't have to go really deep. You don't want to try to make your voice go really deep. I don't have a really deep voice, but I can tone myself down to that part of myself. And if you can do that, you'll be able to get yourself into a theta state really quickly. So let's try it out. Take a deep breath in. Mm. One more time. Mm. So if I do that too much, I'll actually go into a full theta myself. So I don't want to do it too much. But as you can see, it's a very relaxing feeling. It feels very good. Your hands and your chest and your arms can feel it. It's very relaxing. These techniques, this toning and this breathing, beyond getting ourselves into theta states, are very, very healing, very relaxing. And if you're ever experiencing any level of emotional dis-ease or discomfort or anything like that, they can be very helpful. So I recommend finding how these tools work best for you. Whether or not you care about going into trance states, they can be very helpful for just relaxation purposes. So that's our discussion of trance states. So now let's talk a little bit about astral boundaries and what they're for. So once we've learned how to get ourselves in and out of these trance states, the question is why and what do we do? What do we do when we're in a trance state? Because once you start to face yourself, all the stuff comes up, right? All the thoughts, all the feelings, all the memories, all the inspirations, all the concerns, all the worries, all the thing, everything, right? What do we do with that stuff? Well, ultimately, we want to be able to manage it. We want to manage our thoughts and feelings. We want to have a space within ourselves from which we can do that. A sort of central base, an astral base, so to speak. By creating intentional astral spaces, we can do this. This is the basis for doing any serious Akashic work. If you want to know how to explore past lives or take someone else there, if you want to know how to read the Akashic record or help someone else do that, which you can do, anyone can do, it all starts and stops at this primary astral boundary. There's a lot of different astral boundaries and intentional spaces that we create, but the primary one is what we call the astral safe space. It's a safe, happy, warm, enjoyable, pleasant place that we can go. We like to equate this place with the heart center, with heart centered awareness, because we want it to be a place that's enjoyable, a place that's pleasant. So, probably one of the most common spaces is the beach. I would say that at least half of the people that we work with in trance states say, I'm on a beach and I'm floating in the water because everyone loves beaches. Not everyone, but most people do. The associations around the beach are what matter. How do we feel when we think about a beach, when we imagine a beach, when we remember a beach? How do we feel when we think about the sand, about the water, about the smell of the ocean, the air on our skin, the sun, the birds, the people around us? Beaches are very pleasant things, and we want to bring pleasant things in, right? Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical space. That's not really the important part. It can be abstract, it can be imaginary, it can be completely sound and light and color, doesn't matter. But we want it to have enough complexity that it engages our mind. And the reason for this is because, there's a lot of tools out there for doing this similar kind of work. Affirmation is one of the most common things people use. Affirmation is great. If I tell myself over and over again, I am love, I am wealth, I'm abundance, it'll have an effect. It'll definitely have an effect. But over time, the mind tends to get kind of bored, with that. The mind tends to kind of trick us out of believing that because of the complexity of the mind versus the simplicity of that statement. If we can fully engage our creative, imaginative abilities to interface with the subconscious mind, then we can really do some very powerful work, and we can really know how to relax ourselves. The astral boundary, the safe space, is an excellent relaxation tool. It's an excellent healing tool, and allows us to spend some time with ourselves. So the key to it is really bringing in the things that give us joy. The heart. This is all about the heart. The first astral boundary we create is around our heart. We want to choose what energies come into our heart center and what energies don't belong there, right? Our heart center, our astral heart center, should be a place of joy, a place of happiness, a place of love, a place of compassion, a place of peace. Now, things may come up when we try to do that and we address that with our practice. But ultimately, we want to build a foundation of joy, right? Joy is important. Laughter is important, right? We want to be able to be happy. We want to be able to bring happiness into ourselves, right? We want to cultivate our energy, invest time in ourselves. Most of the people that are attracted to this work are very empathetic, loving, compassionate people. A lot of healers are attracted to this work, and they don't necessarily spend a lot of time on themselves. Maybe they think it's selfish to do so, or maybe they do spend time on themselves. But even when we're by ourselves, even when we're doing self work or self care, our minds might kind of tend to wander off, to drift off. It's important to create space for ourselves in physical reality, right? We all have a house, hopefully, or at least some sort of shelter where we can go to spend time by ourselves, to rest, to eat, to relax, to just be ourselves without having to worry about all the pressures of the outside world. And it's kind of considered a basic human right to have some kind of space like that. We also have that basic human right astrally. We have the right to create a contained space within ourselves to cultivate ourselves, to spend time with ourselves. And no matter what our responsibilities are, no matter what our obligations are in the outside world, we can have that space. There's nothing else, there's nothing that requires 100% of our energy and time. And if we are devoting 100% of our energy and time to those other things, then we need to cultivate some time for ourselves. Now, for some people, the reverse might be true. Some people are so self absorbed that they spend all of their time with themselves. But the point of this boundary is not to really keep everything out. The point of this boundary is to allow just the things in that need to come. It's a porous boundary. It allows in those things that should be there. It allows in those beings that should be there. We can bring in the presence, the energy of the people we love, of the relationships we want to cultivate. We create boundaries with other people because we want to relate with them, not because we want them to go away. We might create a firm boundary with someone that's harming us and tell them to go away permanently, but for the most part, if we want to relate with somebody, it's healthy and loving and healthful to create an intentional boundary. If you can create the space within yourself, if you can create a heart center, a safe space, an astral temple, sometimes people call it, then you'll be able to connect with yourself from any state of being and you will always be safe. Somebody can always take away your external structure, your physical structure, right? Your house could get knocked down, anything could happen, but no one can take away your inner safe space. No one can take your astral safe space from you. And if you can cultivate that space, you can do any astral work you can possibly imagine. It's always a place to come back to. It's your home base. It's your astral home base, a place where you can spend time with yourself, just being with yourself, your true self, your higher self, your deeper self, your unconditional self. cultivating love, cultivating joy, cultivating compassion. It seems simple and it is simple. And some people do it naturally, some people it takes a lot of work. But if we spend time doing that, then we can do pretty much any kind of spiritual or psychological or healing work from a place of strength, from a foundation of empowerment. So that's our discussion on astral boundaries. So I would now like to invite you to just take a few minutes to really relax back. And I'm going to take you on a guided journey to explore some of these concepts and how they work for you. So I recommend, if you don't have headphones, getting some headphones. I recommend sitting back, laying down, or if you're in a chair, sit back. You want good neck support, good head support. Most people don't really like to do this work sitting up in a meditation posture, but if you want to, that's fine too. It's really up to you, but just want to make sure you're comfortable, that you're physically relaxed. Take just a few breaths. Just really deeply relaxing. Just finding that easy point of the breath, moving in and out of your lungs. And I'm going to do the 5 count of the breath. Again, count in for 5, and out for 5. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Continue to breathe and relax. And begin to feel your thoughts and feelings, memories, ideas just floating into your mind. Just observe those thoughts and feelings. Just watch them float by like clouds in the sky. Some are large, some are small. And as you relax even deeper, we'll now do a 7 count breath in and a 7 count breath out. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. In, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Continue to breathe, relax. You begin to imagine a safe, warm, happy place. Could be a place from your memory or daydream or fantasy place where you'd like to be, or a place that you go all the time. Maybe it's a completely abstract place. It doesn't matter what it looks like, only matter how you feel there. The place of deep peace and calm relaxation. Place with no pressure, no obligation. Place of joy and happiness. Bring in those things that make you happy. The people, the objects, the memory, the song, the feeling, all of those things. Breathe and relax and engage with all of your senses. Engage with all of your awareness, the scents, the textures, the color, the sound, the sensation. Be fully present in that space. This is a real space. This is your heart center. And if anything comes in that makes you feel sad or bad, afraid, unhappy, send those things away for the moment. Let them know you'll address them when it's time. You'll connect with them when it's time. You may find some of these things resist. Some of these things may not want to go. Maybe they're not bad things. Maybe it's just something that occupies your mind a lot. A person, a responsibility, something that distracts you from relaxing fully. Whatever it is, it's time to create a boundary, to decide how much time and energy do you want to devote to this thing. How many hours a day do you spend? Understand that if you are thinking about someone or something, they are within your boundary. Do you want them there? How much time do you want to spend there? How much energy do you want to devote? Create this boundary. Maybe you don't want to spend any time or energy. You understand That time is energy. Time is all you have. How much time will you spend? How much of your life will you spend? Choose now. How much time will you spend on those things that take your energy, take your life, take your time? How much time each day will you spend with yourself here in this space? You should spend at least 1 minute each day here with yourself, just with yourself. And when it's time to focus on those other things, those other energy, those other people, those responsibilities, you will be able to do so from a position of strength, empowerment, from a place of thriving. Just spend another few moments there, creating any boundaries you might need to create within yourself. And when you're ready, I invite you to slowly and gently bring yourself back to your physical space, to the room you're in, opening your eyes and looking around, stretching your neck a little bit, moving your fingers and toes. It's not unusual to want to stay in that place and rest and sleep. But we do invite you, if you would like to share about your experience with us, to tell us about how toning and breathing work for you, or if you'd like to tell us about your safe space. We'll leave this channel open just for a few minutes. And while we're doing that, I'll tell you a little bit about some of the other work that we do. We offer one-on-one sessions. If you're interested in that, you can schedule a free consult. There'll be a link to that in the follow-up email that you'll get. We also offer recorded products on our media page at akashictrance.com/media. We're also offering an Akashic Trancework initiation e-course, which comes in a couple different flavors. There's a self-paced version and an intensive 9-week course that we offer. And if you'd like to learn more about those, you can go to akashictrance.com/initiation. You can always just engage with us anytime. If you'd like to come back and do another one of these webinars, you're welcome to do that. We do these very often. So you can always come back and engage with us. You can reach out to Astara or myself at any time and learn more about what we do, or just communicate. We love to communicate with people. So thank you for being present. I hope this was a beneficial experience for you. There is a worksheet that will be provided to you in the email. So if you would like to fill that out and give us some feedback and assess your trance experience for yourself, you can do that. And you can also send that to us. And if you do send that to us, we will respond and let you know our thoughts. So again, thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening. Deepest blessings. Until next time.